Welcome to another episode of the Uphill Goat. This is episode number 120. As always, this is your host, Andrew Conover. Today we have a special guest and friend, Timo Mostert, who is the head coach of the American Fork cross country running team. He has had 10 state championship wins in the past 14 years, two second place finishes at national championships, and a number of top 10 finishes at nationals as well. He is one of the most successful running coaches to ever coach, and he has set number of athletes to the college level and professional level who are running some of the best in the world. And I really hope that you enjoyed this show and our conversation about training, nutrition, visualization, the mental side of racing, and the things that he have found to be most important.
Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Timo, how are you?
Doing great.
You're good. It's been a while. How's life?
Oh, it's doing great. Had practice this morning. Things are going good.
Nice. How's the team looking this year?
Uh, we've got six varsity guys back, so we should be all right.
Nice. That's sweet. Way fun. And are you still teaching as well or just coaching now?
No, I retired during COVID from
Okay.
teaching, so I'm just coaching.
Very nice. That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining me on the show here. This will be fun to catch up and kind of dive into some of your coaching and story. But maybe to start, I'd love to kind of hear what got you into running, your story with running, and how you ended up coaching in that kind of whole process.
Wow. Well, back in the 70s, we only had two channels of TV, and so I grew up in Western Illinois, and so we were active in sports year round, always outside, outdoors, and in sixth grade, we had a school district track meet, all the grade schools, and I thought it was a lot of fun. So when I got to junior high, still full time sports the year round, and then in the spring was track season. So I joined the track team and ran the 880. Now we do the 800 meters. It's metric instead of imperial measurement. But I did the 880 in junior high, and cross country coach came to a meet and said, "Hey, you're going to run cross country." And I was too small to. I played football in the spring in junior high, and or in the fall in junior high. Played football, and I realized, well, I'm less than 5 feet tall, weigh about 95 pounds, so I don't think I'm going to play a lot of football, even if I go out for the team. So I started running cross country then. Um, Ran all through high school, ran junior college before my mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Came back off my mission and ran at BYU. Uh, I started out in college in engineering and then just had this urge that I want to coach. So I changed my major to math and emphasis in secondary education and got my degree in to teach mathematics and just started coaching right out of college. And 36 years later, I'm still coaching.
Wow. Did you start right at American Fork High School?
No, I first got hired out of BYU at Murray High School and was there for
Mm.
10 years.
Oh, wow.
And not a big city guy, and Salt Lake was really big. So didn't like the travel and all the traffic and the pollution. And so I was glad to make it back down to Utah County.
Nice. Okay. That's great. And you're from Illinois then. You grew up your whole life in Illinois?
Yeah, most of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
That's really cool. So for those who don't know, I first met Timo my sophomore year in high school, I believe, when he was my math teacher in high school. And it was great. Great teacher, great coach. So obviously you've coached for a long time now. You've seen a lot of different athletes. You've really kind of you have a system down. You produce some of the best cross country athletes in the nation and world regularly. Tell us maybe a little bit about a week in training. What does a week look like for your varsity runners?
Well, first thing is for a coach, to get his athletes to be really good, you have to have a basic philosophy of what's going to make them fast and what's going to allow them to train at an optimal level. Because I'm sure your podcast is mainly to mountain bikers,
Yeah,
because
correct.
that's your sport, right?
Exactly.
So I try to put this in context where maybe it has applicability to any type of endurance sport. Um, and so when I was a young coach, I was kind of back in the 80s and 90s. The the philosophy was low volume, high intensity.
Mm.
I found out personally that I wasn't getting the results that were satisfying to me. And so doing research, talking to other coaches, um, experimenting on myself, and then taking what I found worked well and going back to the training I had in the 70s as an athlete, I changed my philosophy around to build the aerobic engine. That's what our philosophy is based around. And so what we're trying to do is run optimal paces for enough mileage that's going to affect the biggest or get the most bang for our buck. You know, for a person in business, that would be ROE, right? Return on investment, ROI, return on investment.
Yeah.
We want to get the maximal return for the investment that we're putting in. And so we do a lot of aerobic work. I've gotten away from doing a tremendous amount of anaerobic work. It tears the guy's legs up, and we just weren't getting the results. We're actually a lot faster now doing aerobic work than we were doing a tremendous amount of anaerobic work. So during the summer, a typical week would be we do a famous run called the Grinder on Mondays. It's we run about 3 miles over to Pleasant Grove, and then we have a 1.3 mile uphill, which is 11th East, starts at Canyon Road and goes up the hill for 1.3 miles with 400 feet of elevation change. So it's pretty intense. And then the varsity, the older guys will go over up to a little pinnacle right by the Forest Service Road. They're right above Pleasant Grove's mountain biking course, which you're well familiar with.
Yeah.
And so we call it Mountain Dew Hill. And it goes up to 5,280 feet, so another 180 feet. And so it's about 10.8 miles total for the boys on Monday. And then all my older boys, they also do every day a half hour recovery run.
Mm.
During the school year, we do that in the morning with our workouts in the afternoon. But during the summer, especially when it's hot, we'll do our workout in the morning and the recovery run in the afternoon.
Mm.
And so on Mondays, they're getting between 12 and 15 miles of running total. Tuesday, this morning, we did a 6 mile run. And our usual runs, which I call intermediate runs, between 5 and 8 miles, we try to do at what's called aerobic threshold pace. So it's the maximal pace that you can hold forever if you had the energy stores. Obviously, you can bonk out by not having enough glycogen stored up in your muscle tissue. But so we tried, and this is the key to our training, is we try to hit aerobic threshold pace for as many miles as possible
Mm.
during the week. It's usually between 20 and 25, 30 miles. They'll do a recovery run tonight. Tomorrow, we meet with the whole team, and I think we have a 5 miler plan. This is only the third week of training, and so the young guys are doing. I'm gradually building up their mileage. A safe rule is 10% increase per week.
Mm.
So if they started at 30 miles, then this week they're close to being able to get 36 to 37 miles total. And we'll build up. We want to average, the varsity boys are already doing the recovery runs, so they're trying to average about 60 miles a week or over the summer
Okay.
and during the entire year. That translates in biking. I use a basic rule. It's about 2.5 to 3 miles of biking for 1 mile of running.
Yeah.
So, 150 to 180 miles might be consider a really good week for a biker.
Mm.
For a runner, like I said, for our high school boys is about 60. We have a lot of boys running in college right now, and they're getting 80 to 120 miles a week, depending on how old they are and how much experience they've had at the college level. Um, and So that's our guidelines. So on Wednesday, we'll do, right now, we're just in base phase. So we're doing intermediate runs Tuesday through Friday. Friday, we like to go somewhere and do a trail run
Oh, fun.
to get out of town and just make it fun for the kids. We'll go up to everything. Well, let's see. We did the Art Dye Park. We did the section that goes up from Lone Peak High to American Fork Canyon
Mm.
last Friday. The Friday before, we did the Jordan River Trail down by Willow Park in Lehigh. This week, we're going to do the Art Dye Trail up to where there used to be a green gate up on the north side of the seminary building at Lone Peak.
Okay.
Um, Next week, we'll do Provo Canyon and do Bridal Veil Falls. We'll do trail runs um, up on the backside of Timpanogos. We have a camp in July where we we go up American Fork Canyon and camp out for 3 days and run twice a day up there.
Wow.
So that's usually how and then Saturday is our long runs between 70 and 90 minutes. And once again, we're trying to hit aerobic threshold pace.
Mm.
So we're just trying to, and the long run, 70 to 90 minutes is enough of a stimulus to get capillarization in our lungs and muscle tissue. Capillaries are the small blood vessels. So if we can build the number of capillaries, then your body can be more efficient transporting oxygen through your blood system to your muscle tissue. So that improves your aerobic engine, and that's our goal. Later in the summer, we'll start doing longer repeats, 3 by 1 mile, 6 by 800, 5 by 1,000 meters, 4 by 1,200 meters, something longer with plenty of rest. And we try to start at about 3 mile race pace, since our races are 3 miles or 5,000 meters in high school cross country. So we'll try to do about 3 miles of intensity with lots of rest. And we'll start at 3 mile race pace and go negative splits. So
Mm.
they start developing the mindset of being to go faster when they're tired. And that helps them also understand that they can't go out way fast. They want to go out at their goal pace and then hit negative splits. And so building the aerobic engine has allowed us to do that. So that's what a typical week looks like. We also do later um, what we used to call in the 70s anaerobic threshold runs. I personally call them power runs with my athletes. So in running, we're going about a minute slower than our 2 mile personal best. So it's anaerobic threshold. So we're trying to get the body adapted to being able to um, clear out blood lactate, get rid of the acidosis efficiently, but not push into the racing. Uh, we're not feeling like we're racing. We're feeling like we're running with power, and so that
Mm.
allows us um, to do that. So those are kind of the most important workouts that we do during the year. But the whole emphasis and the whole philosophy is based on is if we improve our aerobic engine, then we'll be able to race faster than everybody else and hold pace and actually go negative splits and blow them away with our pace.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's super cool how congruent that is with cycling training. How for we kind of follow the 80-20 principle, or even 85-15 a lot of times, with the vast majority of our training being focused on that aerobic engine as well. Do you do any
Yeah,
sort
in running 80-20, that 20 would be a little too much.
really? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so we might have, well, hardly anything. At the end of repeat workouts, we'll do stride laps. And so they're jogging the turns on the track and then accelerating to full sprint. So
Mm.
that's That helps us with our kick and also with our alactic anaerobic systems. But 20% of our mileage at anaerobic paces,
Way
VO2
too much.
max or faster would be just way too much. And so
Yeah.
that's some of the philosophy back from from the 80s and 90s, and even back in the 60s, there were some guys that espoused that. But um, it might work better with mountain biking, but for
Mm.
running, high school runners, that 20% anaerobic would be way too
Way too
much.
high. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. Do you do any sort of test to figure out their aerobic threshold pace? Because obviously it'd be different for me versus your top varsity runner, who versus people with different speeds will have different aerobic pace. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So what
Um,
anything to figure that out?
I just, there's many different tables you can find online, like with Dr. Tom Schwartz, Tin Man. He has tables for all your different paces that you want.
Hmm.
I just use with my runners, I just use some basic rules. Like I said, for our anaerobic threshold or power run pace, we'll do our 2 mile personal best plus a minute. So 30
Okay.
seconds per mile slower. For our intermediate runs where we want our anaerobic threshold, usually what we do is we take our 3 mile race pace per mile and add 45 seconds to it.
Hmm.
So a kid who's about 16 minutes would be about 6:05 pace
Hmm.
per mile.
Yeah. And then what about for the aerobic workouts?
Well, that's our aerobic
Oh,
um,
gotcha. Okay. So
threshold. So
I
that's
see.
for our intermediate runs and our long run. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
And our recovery runs are usually pretty slow. They might start even around 9 minute pace, 8 minute pace. It just should be easy conversational pace to loosen up the body, get out residual
Hmm.
gunk from the muscle tissue and from the bloodstream, and so almost half of our total mileage, if you count up their recovery runs plus warm ups and cool downs from workouts and their warm up miles on their intermediate runs, because we'll go easy for about a mile and then start pushing into our aerobic threshold pace. So almost 45 to 50% of our mileage is very easy miles.
Okay.
And the other is mainly we're trying to get as many miles as possible at aerobic threshold, and that's what's
Hmm.
building our engine.
Yeah, that's super cool. Um, so the recovery runs, you have them do a recovery run every day.
Yeah.
Wow. So just 30 minutes on their own or with a friend. It's not as a team.
No, we do it together.
Oh,
We
you
meet
do.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, during the school year, we always met at 6:30 in the morning
Mm.
and went for a half hour, and then they could shower, eat, get ready for the school day.
Yeah.
So they got all the good parking spots in the high school parking lot.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. That's super interesting. I'd be curious to experiment with that myself for cycling. What led to having them do that recovery run every day?
Every coach that I've ever had, starting back to my first two high school coaches, had me do morning runs, run doubles.
Okay.
And so it's something I grew up with, and I needed a way to get investment by my athletes to understand how it was important. If we want to try to get all the top teams in the US get around 60 miles a week, there's some schools and teams that get more. Now, if you're running singles and you're trying to get 60 a week, that's 10 miles a day.
Right.
But if we can break that up in like 4 in the morning and 6 in the afternoon, we're still getting our mileage in. Um, the uh, the morning runs as well as recovery, it's really good for psychologically of relaxing, getting
Mm.
loose. There's um, a lot of body chemicals, brain chemicals that release in the morning. Um, from doing exercise in the morning, which helps them actually in school,
Mm.
and and it also helps with recovery. So to insist that we're going to keep it easy, we're getting our mileage in. It's low impact or it's less impact than hammering everything, like I said, it's a win-win for our program, and it's really been beneficial instead of having to go 10 to 12 miles every afternoon.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, it probably helps the team kind of just bonds together to be able to just talk more while they're running, have
Yeah.
good kind of good time together. Super cool. That's yeah, I'm going to probably start researching and experimenting that from a cycling standpoint. I think that would be cool to implement. Um let's do you I'm curious, do you do any sort of like psychological sports psychology things with your team to help them with the mental side of racing?
Absolutely. Um, we talk a lot about um, mindset, how if you have a hard workout, what's your goal? Are you just going to survive the workout or you want to conquer the workout?
Hmm.
And conquering doesn't mean going way harder than your body's capable of doing. It's hitting the correct paces to get the optimal adaptation. Um, so we talk a lot about that mindset of conquering. Um, when it comes to race time, are you going to run a race or are you going to race? And
Hmm.
that's, you always want to have this feeling, and that's why we emphasize negative splits in practice, because you race how you train.
Right.
And so whatever behavior you want to see in your competitions, or if you're a cycling coach or a running coach, whatever behaviors you want to see on race day, you're going to need to practice them so they become second nature to your athletes.
Hmm.
And um, so we talk a lot about mindset, what we should be thinking about in practice, and that'll carry over in the event their competitions, but also usually the morning of race day, I will do a visualization session with them, and that's very helpful for them. It calms them down. You don't want to be too high if you know the Yerkes Dodson rule law, which says that your amount of anxiety or tension, um, if it goes up too high, your performance level drops. So it's also called the inverted U theorem. Not enough anxiety, and you have low performance
Okay.
because you haven't gotten yourself physically and mentally prepared to race.
Hmm.
Too much anxiety and you're tight, and you can't race tight. And
Right.
so it looks like an upside down U. That's why it's called also the inverted U theorem.
Hmm.
And so we want to get them pretty centered. Um, so we'll do that in our visualization. We'll actually visualize our entire race, whether it's in track, on the track, or a cross country course. So I have to know the cross country course to help them. Um, and we'll visualize the entire race. And we actually have three components that we work on in our visualization sessions. We'll lay down in a dark room, like the yoga room over at the high school, with the lights off. We'll lay down on yoga mats, and I will talk, and they'll go through. So we start with visualization of the race, and then we do what's called progressive relaxation, where you take each component of the body and you tighten up, like you start with your hands and you tighten it really tight,
Hmm.
and then you relax it out. And then the third part is energization, where we visualize ourselves being like a battery and we are energizing ourselves. So we are full of energy and we're prepared for our race. And so um, if you watch our team at any race, we don't, there's a lot of teams at the starting line that jump up and down screaming, their team cheer, whatever. And we don't do that at all, because
Hmm.
what it does is it jacks them up, and then they go out too fast because they're all jacked up. And
Right.
we want to be level headed. We want to be concentrating on the thing. And if you watch a professional track meet, or like the NCAA championships was this last weekend, everybody is calm, relaxed, trying to stay loose, trying to stay in the zone or get in the zone
Hmm.
without jacking themselves up too high and getting, because that tightens you up. But it also, you lose the opportunity to run your race. You're not going to run your race. You're going to run either somebody else's races or the wrong race by going out too fast.
Hmm.
So we do a lot of visualization and want also during practice, we're like I said, you race how you train. So the specific behaviors that we want to see on race day, we're actually practicing and talking about them. This is important for us. That's why we do stride laps. It's going to help us with our kick. It's going to help us. And at the end of repeat workouts, we'll do a kick simulation on the last repeat
Mm.
where they are practicing their kicks. So when they get to a meet, they know it's going to be there. You have 60 seconds of anaerobic capacity at the end of a race to use. It's in reserve. You've been using your aerobic system. So we have to talk about these things. We practice it so that hopefully all those little components that contribute to a great race and PRs or a championship, they've been in place from the first day of practice. We did stride laps our first practice 2 weeks ago.
Mm.
So getting them in that mindset, getting them to understand every single thing we do has been scientifically proven to work, and we're going to be consistent at doing them. And that consistency is key to helping them uh, achieve their eventual goals.
Wow. Yeah, you said a lot of really great things there. I love the focus on visualization. That's something I try to do as well as I'm falling asleep. Generally, the night before a race, I'll kind of go through the entire course, imagine each section, really go through the difficult sections of a course, imagine riding it perfectly over and over again, and having a good start. Doing everything that I would like to do well in a race. I'm curious, kind of shifting gears a little bit. What does strategy look like in a running race? Like in biking, there's elements of placement that are really important. Going into single track and drafting can be important depending on the course. Um, where like but then there's also the element of just racing your race, like you were talking about. Not really like sometimes depending on the course, I'll focus on racing the course rather than the competitors. I'm curious on your thoughts on that, the things that you've experienced and seen to work best for your athletes.
Oh, definitely. You got to know the course. Like you said, if there's single track, you might have to put in a surge to get ahead of a group because if you're stuck behind the group, then you slow down when they slow down. You
Right.
lose your momentum. So you need to know the course. You need to know where there are places to attack,
Mm,
some strategic places. Other than that, on a lot of courses, and we'll scout them out, even nationals course or our regionals course in Arizona. We'll go through and I will go go on it with the boys and we'll stop at different points and talk about what should be our strategy here. Um, but definitely, yeah, if you need to know your opponents and what their common, well, what their characteristics are of how they race, because I know for a fact that there are certain teams in this state who their coaches teach them to go out way hard.
mm,
And so we can use that to our advantage. Or if there are teams that run certain sections a specific way, um, and we don't want to do what they do if it's going to be detrimental to the overall race. We want to have our strategy. And if we follow our strategy, we will have an advantage over them.
wow.
And so definitely those things. And once again, you've got to practice that and practice. And the thing about visualization, like yesterday morning we did the grinder, I had the guys just a couple minutes, and we do this sometimes in repeat workouts and other workouts. Just take a couple minutes, relax, and think about what you want to accomplish that day. Maybe a spot on the hill that's tough for you and how you're going to conquer it. Once again,
Mm,
getting that mindset of conquering the workout instead of just surviving it.
wow. Do you still give your athletes t-shirts if they hit certain time segments on the grinder?
Yeah, we still give out I conquered the grinder t-shirts if they break 9 minutes.
Okay, 9 minutes. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and also a few years ago, I was teaching at a coach's clinic in Boulder, Colorado, the Boulder clinics, and a coach from Illinois was talking about uh, he had a national championship team in 2007, and his top boy won that race and was a phenomenal collegiate and post collegiate runner after that. and he called them aerobic monsters.
Hmm.
And so I got t-shirts made up called Aerobic Monster. And so if the athletes can break 15 minutes for 3 miles at altitude, or 920 in the 3200, or 420 in the 1600 at altitude, then they earn aerobic monster status.
Nice.
And incentives like that, but also it makes them know that, hey, I'm pretty elite
Uh-huh.
and I can do good things, and college coaches are gonna want me on their teams, and I'm going to get some opportunities to get maybe part of my education paid for,
Right.
and be able to keep enjoying this great sport.
Huh. That's fantastic. If I go break 9 on the grinder, would you give me a t-shirt?
If you're no, because you're out of high school.
Shucks.
We had actually a team from Nevada come. They're training with us this week. Their coach brought them up, and they've been training.
Oh,
So they went and did the grinder with us this morning. Will I give them a t-shirt? No, it's just for our team. But I
nice.
gave them. I had a big box of old extra t-shirts from past years and stuff. So I let them go through and get a caveman cross country t-shirt from a
Nice.
previous year. But no, I conquered the grinder t-shirts are just special for our athletes on our team.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's super
If
cool.
everybody came and did the grinder with us, broke 9, got a t-shirt, I'd be bankrupt. We've had teams from California, from Kansas, from
Really?
from Nevada, from Oregon come train with us. So, and individuals from all over the United States.
Hmm. That's super. Yeah, wow. You guys are definitely a team to come train with, it sounds like. A lot of people come to you.
Yeah.
Do you ever go to other teams to train with them, or does it just teams come to you?
We have in the past. We used to when we were in the same region with Timpview, we would go invite them for a run. Then we go and run. We used to do that with Westlake and with a couple other high schools. We just go like one day and run with them, or have them come and run with us for one day. But like I said, we do get teams or individuals from around the nation come to, and especially want to do the grinder. There's a video on YouTube of that Flow Track did in 2016 of our team doing the grinder, and it's got over 300,000 views.
Wow.
So it's really well known by a lot of coaches and a lot of athletes around the
Yeah,
nation.
you've made it famous for
Yeah.
sure. And you do it every Monday.
Every Monday during the summer. Yeah. When we're racing, we don't do it because it would be too much, when we're
Yeah.
trying to prepare for a race. But in the preseason and in the postseason, in between, we've got a 3 week block between a 3.5 week block between state and regionals.
Mm,
We'll do the grinder that, and then um, during indoor track and in the preseason of outdoor track, we go back and do the grinder. Our last one in track is during spring break week. We'll do the grinder that Monday. Yeah,
wow.
it's a staple.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. What does training look like on a race week for you guys?
Um, well, obviously, we wouldn't do the grinder on Monday. We might move our repeats from Wednesday or Thursday, or our power run, to maybe a Monday and then a Wednesday if we're racing on Saturday, or even Friday. We might do 3 by 1 mile on Monday and then a power run on Wednesday. Um, and try to, and then intermediate runs the day before a race. We're obviously not going to do our aerobic threshold pace. We're trying to get our body ready. We'll still get our volume in, but it'll be I call it follow coach pace. I
Nice.
used to run with the guys, and now I'm so old, I'm on a bicycle. And so I'll just make sure the pace is a little easier, maybe 7 minute pace or 7:30 pace, and cut down the mileage in the afternoon to 4 to 5 miles.
Mm,
Um, so they're still getting 8 to 9 miles the day before a meet, but their legs are loosened up. And we'll go to a park somewhere, and we'll sit and talk and get all the logistics about the meet out of the way. I'll assign athletes to lead warm-ups and cool downs for each event group, because you might have JV races, a freshman race or a frost off race, a junior senior race, and then the varsity race. So we plan on all that. We'll discuss what to bring, um, how to prepare your meal the night before, the pre-race meal in the morning, and hydration, and we'll talk about all of the logistical things that will aid
Mm.
them in being prepared for their race, packing up their bag, what they need to bring, gear wise, so that there are no surprises. They're there to race. They're there to and they're prepared to do everything right.
And you do that before every race.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, because usually I'm pretty busy at races. Either I'm officiating, in track, I might be officiating, or I might be the announcer. So
Mm.
these boys, you give them ownership for their preparation. They know what to do. They go out and do it. They execute their race plan, because they might not see me more than 2 or 3 minutes after we get off the bus.
Right.
And so I teach them to be independent and also gives them responsibilities. We usually have great team captains to take care of varsity, or if a team captain happens to be JV, he can take care of that group. But we start them early. If you're a freshman race, I'll put some freshmen or two freshmen in charge of warm-ups and cool downs. And they know
Yeah.
exactly what to do because we've practiced it. Our warm-ups and cool downs on race day are the same as in practice. So
Mm.
they know exactly what to do.
Yeah. So you do the same. Do you just do that warm up for hard days, or do you do those for every run?
Well, yeah, usually if you're going to do a warm up, we don't warm up before our intermediate runs or our long run. We'll
Yeah.
just get into the run and have an easy first mile and then get into it. And we
Gotcha.
do all our team stretches after our workouts before we go into the weight room for a lifting session or a core session.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, what we do for meet days is exactly what we do on our like a, re- a repeat workout, like we're doing 5 by 1,000. So we'll do a mile warm up with, and in the middle of it, a mile to a mile and a half warm up, and in the middle of it, we'll throw in a really hard 200 meters to
Mm.
get vasodilation going,
Yeah.
um, and then at least 2 to 3 miles cool down afterwards, and a team stretch. So we model that in practice, and so they're comfortable with it. Once again, what you're trying to do on race day is make sure they're not too anxious, and so familiarity with what to do leads to less anxiety,
Mm.
pre-race anxiety.
Yeah. Interesting. And how often do you do strength and core work?
We lift Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we do core Tuesday, Thursday, and then every morning after our morning run, we'll go in and do 10 pull-ups, 20 dips, and 40 crunches for general strength.
Okay. So what would a normal strength session look like for you guys?
We do four. Um, we just do four lifts. We try to do 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps. We'll do bench press. We'll do dumbbell runners, which is you take dumbbells 90 degrees. And so, just like our driving motion, if you're driving up hills or sprinting, you
Yeah.
want to have that same motion. So, we're working the deltoids, and it also helps the core because we're doing everything with dumbbells standing up. We'll do
Yeah.
forearm curls and not bicep curls because it helps strengthen the wrists and the forearms a little bit better,
Mm.
which once again are very important for um, in running, especially sprinting. Your kick and running when you're fatigued, your arms usually go fast, and so we want that strength. And then we do a triceps exercise, usually back scratchers,
Okay.
with a tricep. We want to, so it sounds like all we're doing is a lot of upper body work. We don't do, because we're running hills so often, I don't see a point of doing lunges
Mm.
or squats or any Olympic lifting. I know some programs that maybe feel like they need to do that, but because we run so many hills, if we go north from the high school or east from high school, we're going to hit hills
Right.
pretty soon. And so those are the four exercises that we work on, and um, they all work core because three of those exercises you're standing, and so you're
Yeah.
stabilizing your body. That's why I like using free weights and not machines, because it does work the core as well as the target areas that you're working on.
So you do really focus on the upper body, engaging the core in all of your workouts, and you do core. You do core Tuesday and Thursday, you said, but then
Tuesday and Thursday. Yeah,
after.
it's kind of like an 8-minute abs type
Okay.
core routine. A lot
Yeah.
of crunches, obliques, planks,
Hmm.
uh, bicycles, yeah, around the world. It
Okay.
takes, it's kind of like an 8-minute abs thing. We started that about 15 years ago, and it's been real effective. I couldn't get investment in the boys trying to get them to do core more than just some crunches, and 40
Hmm.
crunches a day is definitely not enough. That's what we're doing in the morning. Boys are doing that. I always do 100 crunches every morning and every
Well,
evening. So I'm old and trying to get rid of the gut, and it doesn't work,
nice.
but at least I got strength underneath.
Uh-huh. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot. Say the 8 minute and then other engagement as well. I'm curious, Timo, what keeps you motivated? You've won, how many state championships have you won as a team?
10 and 10.
10 in cross country. Have you won a
Yeah.
national championship yet?
No, we've had 3 second places.
Okay.
We've had 12 top 10 finishes at nationals.
Wow. Okay. And how many of those 10 state championship wins, like how many have been in the last 10 years?
Let's see. Our first one was in 2009, so 10 state
Okay.
championships in 14 years.
Yeah. You're basically winning every year now. Like I remember like when I was in high school, it was like if they didn't win, it was surprising. You guys are just dominating. Um, is that still exciting for you? Do you have a goal to win a national championship? What are kind of your hopes as a coach?
Well, definitely, it's always exciting because it's always a new group of boys. The boys that were on that first team 2009, um, they're like 30 years old, 31. They're old guys. They have families. Um, they're Some of them. We've got one or two that are still running professionally. We've got a lot of guys in college racing.
Hmm.
Some have graduated, and they're married. They have careers. They might still be doing some racing, but it's a new group every year, and so it's exciting to see how far we can go. How much can we improve? And definitely, our goal every year is to be state champions first and foremost, but then to be on the podium or be national champions. Um, you got to shoot high, but then you definitely have to make sure that you have a plan in place, that you're getting the correct training to make that a viable goal,
Hmm.
and not just, because I remember when I was a young coach, uh, our goal every year was to be state champions, but I wasn't giving them the correct training,
Hmm.
and so we had a 1 second place finish my first 10 years coaching, but we did not have any state. I didn't win my first state championship till my 22nd year coaching.
Wow.
So I had to get
It
the
took you a
correct
while.
training that would allow the athletes to realize their goals.
Yeah. Do you ever have a problem getting enough athletes that are willing to fully commit and be all in with racing, or do you always have enough of a pool that that's not a problem?
Um, you have to think long term, because just because you have kids who are invested doesn't mean that they're physically prepared to
Hmm.
go fast enough to beat the competition.
Yeah.
Um, it might take. We had a kid on varsity this year. He was a senior and he finally made varsity. He wasn't fast enough last year to help us contribute in any way, but this year, um, he got a vision of what he himself could be, and he was able to run fast enough to contribute on varsity.
Hmm.
Um, and he wasn't thinking of running in college, but now, because of the success he had this year, he was able to get a scholarship to go run in college. And
Wow.
that's something that a year ago he wasn't even thinking about.
Hmm.
So yeah, you have to provide them with the support, with the correct training, and the opportunities. And um, I always tell the kids, I cannot motivate you. I'll try to inspire you, but it's impossible for me to motivate you. You have to be self motivating. And if they can be self motivated, then they're going to be way more successful. And especially if they consider the team goals first before their individual goals, because you don't have control over what anybody else is doing, even the members of your team,
Right.
your teammates. You have no control over how much they're progressing or anything. So if you concentrate on your own training, but with the vision that I am contributing to the team, I want to contribute to the success of the team.
Hmm.
That's when great things can happen.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's super cool. And are you planning on staying with Cavemen until you retire for good then, or what are your
Yeah,
long-term plans?
yeah. Oh,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah, I don't know why, but since I retired from teaching, a lot of coaches, I think they just don't want to coach against me anymore. They're like, "When are you retiring?" I'm like, I just finally say, "I'll probably get fired before I retire."
You'll just retire with your death probably is how
Yeah.
that worked then. Wow. That's super amazing. What a blessing for American Fork High School to have you as their head coach for so long now and moving forward. That's super great. Do you still work ever with the athletes that move on and start racing in college or professionally?
Um, no, I don't provide them with any training. I'll talk to them when I see them.
Yeah.
I like going down to meets at BYU because we have a lot of athletes over the years who've been able to go there, and it's really neat to see their progression and their success, and uh, be able to talk to them and see how their training's going, and remind them of the things that got them there. And
Mm,
if they just stick with those basic fundamentals, that they're going to continue to have success.
yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. One thing that I loved about your classroom is that there were quotes all over the walls about all kinds of stuff. I'm curious, do you have a favorite quote, something that guides you?
Um, this morning on my bike ride, I just thought, love one another,
Mm,
and that because I saw a Black Lives Matter flag in somebody's window, and I'm just
yeah.
like, that, why don't we just love one another? Don't worry about skin color, or just just be nice to everybody and love one another. And if you're trying to love others, it always comes back fourfold. And so that's why I emphasize the team so much.
Mm,
And when the athletes invest themselves in their teammates, in their team, like I said, they have greater success.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Love one another. Definitely is good fundamental principle for life. Um, One thing that I find really interesting too about you, Timo, is that you're also part of a band, right? You're a
We
musician.
have fun. I've had fun over the years. Yeah.
Nice. And you play the guitar?
Yeah.
Okay, electric guitar, bass, all of them, acoustic,
Yeah. Drums,
drums.
harmonica,
Okay.
bass, guitars. Yeah.
You do all kinds of stuff. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep. We just had Cave Stock a few weeks, 3 weeks ago. And it was a lot of fun. Our teacher band, Teenage Lobotomy, played, and I hosted. And
Nice.
Matt was the master of ceremonies for I don't know how many years. And we had a lot of fun.
Hmm.
Mr. Lynn and Mr. Slaybaugh are currently playing in the band.
Wow.
It's fun.
Yeah. Do you participate in that every year then?
Yeah.
Really cool. And have
Yeah.
you
Every year
done
we've
that
had
ever
one.
since you've been at AF?
Yeah. Since the summer or the spring of 1999.
Nice.
Yep. Since Cave
Uh,
Stock started.
okay. Oh, that was when Cave Start started, huh?
I think it was. They might
Okay.
have had one the year before I got here in '98, but
Gotcha.
um, no,
I
every
think,
year since.
yeah, I
They
think
just
that's one of
expect me to
the
do it.
nice. Do you
It's,
like
it's,
kind of so you like host the teacher band then every year? You like kind of
yeah,
make it happen? Yeah, okay.
yep.
I think that's one of the best events AF High does. It's so fun. Such a good one. So that's great. Well, maybe to wrap up, is there anything that you would want my listeners to know? Anything you would want to kind of share to the world? Anything you feel has been really valuable to you in your life?
Well, I think, in context of your sport, mountain biking, because I've owned mountain bikes for 30 years and, that's what I'm on every day.
Yeah.
I'm already, since Memorial Day, I've gotten over 300 miles so far this summer. Um, it Since I can't run, I'm going to do something to keep in shape. But the most important thing is love the sport. Never lose your love for the sport.
Mm.
And if you understand your training and what you're doing, um, and do it for enjoyment, then the personal best, the personal records, the success will be there, and you're going to savor those experiences. We take it. I tell the boys, just trust in your training, enjoy it one day at a time. Some days are harder than others, but if you have that conquer attitude and not a survive attitude, you're going to enjoy the experience and you're going to come away with memories for the rest of your life, and it's going
Mhm.
to be one of your favorite times. I mean, my best friends from our my best friends from my teams from high school and from college.
Wow.
And we had a track team reunion at BYU about a month ago after their track invitational, and I saw some friends there that I hadn't seen in many years, and I just and then I had dinner with a buddy who brought his kids down from Alaska to run at the BYU invitational, and so we went out for dinner and had a great time. I hadn't seen him in 30 years, 25 years, so those connections, the personal connections with your teammates, with your coach, even with your competitors, is something to savor and enjoy. And always count your blessings that you have these opportunities and that you're capable of doing things that most people, haven't caught a vision of how fun life can be if you
Mm,
put a tremendous amount of effort into something that's worthwhile. And sports is one of those things that enriches life.
yeah. Beautifully said. Well, thank you so much, Timo. It's been a pleasure talking to you for the past hour or so and hearing your fundamentals and success as a coach. I think from this conversation, there's been a lot that's been shared that shows why you've been such a successful coach, your ability to really focus on racing and training your own race and focusing on having fun and making it something special. And then just the foolproof scientific training, right? That gets the job done. So I loved having you as a teacher, loved having you on the show, but I hope that you have another successful race season this fall.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I hope something I said will resonate with your listeners, and whether they are runners or triathletes or mountain bikers, that they'll benefit from something I said.
Absolutely. There was a lot of wisdom shared, so I'm sure they will.